Hey, sports fans, you know the sound, you know the time. It is time for another episode of the Unbiased podcast, episode 17 today, December 13th, 2022. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm somewhat simplifying the show, due in large part because I'm not going to lie, I'm a pretty lazy person. and just doing my record keeping and typing up all of my games and blah, blah, blah. It's become a little bit of a chore, a bit of a nag. So I'm going to simplify the show. I'm not going to really focus on my record. I am going to stand accountable consistently, and I'll tell you each week that I come on, games that I was right, games that I was wrong on. And my biggest reason, I remember when I started this show, and I can't use what show I was watching or the name of the person because then I could probably get in trouble. But I'll just say that I was watching a sports show. And there was an analyst. This is supposed to be an NFL expert, by the way. I'm watching this analyst, this NFL expert, former player, NFL expert. And this expert says in the preseason that he's got the Denver Broncos winning the AFC West. And I sit here and I think to myself, looking at today, and I get hindsight's 2020. I get that, and I respect that. But what I look at is the fact that the Denver Broncos, and we'll get obviously to the season, to the schedule in just a second, but I look at it and I say the Broncos were just eliminated from playoff contention 13 weeks into the season, where I get there are a lot of teams who are going to be eliminated sooner, or who are going to be eliminated soon as well. But I say they're 3-10. They're literally in no realm of contention, and that expert is not going to have to stand accountable for picking the team that was literally eliminated 13 weeks into the season, 13 games later in a 17-game season. They were eliminated from playoff contention. Not only are they not going to win the division, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And this expert is not going to have to stand accountable. That is why I started this show, because I want the sports world to start standing accountable for horrible decisions and opinions that they share and make. Not good. This is a biased Bennion rant, Babbling Bennion rant, so I have to be careful. And for those who watch my show and know me personally, they probably know who I'm talking about. But there is a certain analyst on a certain show who never gives Patrick Mahomes recognition and credit for really being the most successful young quarterback in the NFL today. And here's my thing, and I wasn't going to start with this. I told you I was going to simplify the show. Check out my other podcast, The Babbling Bennion. I'll probably do an episode on why Patrick Mahomes is the best young quarterback in the game and why there's not an opinion, but just facts backing that up. Very simply, I am going to put out there, very simply, and this is fact, so I like to think that this is an unbiased view. There is only 2 quarterbacks starting in the NFL right now that have more Super Bowl wins than Patrick Mahomes, and that's Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. And so if you want to go purely off of Super Bowl wins, which I get is not what you want to base success off of, because great quarterbacks, great players, may not have Super Bowl victories, and that doesn't make them less of a great player. But to end my opening rant that I was not anticipating of sharing, from what I would believe would be an unbiased view, Patrick Mahomes has won more games, has more passing touchdowns, more passing yards, more wins. He's hosted the AFC Championship game 4 times in a row, which has never been done in NFL history. All of those things to me are an unbiased view of why Patrick Mahomes is the greatest young quarterback in the NFL. Now, point is, there's a certain analyst, expert again, if you will, who really has a problem admitting that and does not acknowledge his greatness. And it's kind of like, okay, but like what you're sharing has no recollection or has no reason or rhyme, because you're literally just sharing your opinion that's wrong and you need to stand accountable for it. So I started the show back in August, I believe it was, because I wanted to stand accountable, and I want to continue to stand accountable to you, but I'm not going to focus on printing out my record and talking about it. I'll just review what games I was right, what games I was wrong on. Moving right along, just a quick World Cup touching home base of the World Cup. Interestingly enough, as I'm filming this, and I apologize, I'm trying to pull up the World Cup right now. As I'm filming this, right at the second, as I'm filming, sorry, my iPad's loading, in the 84th minute, Argentina leads Croatia in the semifinals, so barring an absolute unbelievable miracle, Lionel Messi and Argentina are headed to the World Cup final to play the winner of Morocco and France, who play tomorrow. So that's touching World Cup base. Again, I haven't really gone through much of it. I'm not going to review what happened, just do in large part again, because I mean, I get that it's not all about the USA, but for me, I just feel like that's all I wanted to review. The World Cup marches on, and you know what happened. And I apologize if you wanted more breakdown of the World Cup. That's just not my cup of tea. And not that I don't love soccer, not that I don't love the World Cup. You can go back and watch and know that I love the World Cup. I love soccer. But that's all I'm going to review. In regards to the NBA, it's been an interesting. It was just 3 games that the Jazz have played since we last met. And for the Jazz, it started on Wednesday night. They had a unbelievably remarkable comeback against the Golden State Warriors on Wednesday night and ended up beating Golden State 124-123. Friday night, they hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves, welcomed Rudy Gobert back, and the Timberwolves ended up winning that game 118-108. And then and it's not even, by the way, this isn't even an early episode. It's 1:45 in the afternoon, sorry. Saturday night at Denver, in a back-to-back, the Jazz lost 115-110. Now, in regards to the Jazz, all I'm going to talk about them and review super quickly, and again, this is probably a biased view, so I apologize for that. Very simply, as a Jazz fan, am I worried? Am I panicking? No. I look at the Jazz, and I think they are playing one of the most difficult schedules in the NBA. They have played, I believe it's now 9 back-to-backs. And I don't know necessarily, I haven't done the research to see if that's like a greater number than everybody else in the NBA, but I feel like they're playing consistent back-to-backs. But again, this is not a biased opinion. It's already been like, if you look at strength of schedule, the Jazz have one of the easiest schedules following the All-Star break. So they're, going through their hard, difficult schedule right now. They're playing a lot of Western Conference contenders. Again, a lot of back-to-backs right now. Lauri Markkanen's not playing. Conley's coming off of injury. Colin Sexton still isn't playing. I think on Saturday night, I know Markkanen and Sexton didn't play. Again, Saturday night, Nickeil Alexander. Oh, and then Conley didn't play on Saturday night because he doesn't play on back-to-backs. He played Friday, didn't play Saturday. Our starting point guard was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and he led the scoring with 27 points, and Nickeil isn't exactly the biggest name on our roster. So, I just look at the Jazz and I think that they're going to be fine. Again, the word I used when they were really rolling before was consistency and sustainability. And I feel like they're still playing sustainable basketball. They're just playing with players that aren't up to the level of teams who are at full strength, like a Denver with Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon and all those players. So, again, me personally, I'm not panicking. I'm not too worried. The Jazz right now, I think, are 9th, and that puts them in the play-in tournament. And, the interesting thing with the Jazz about the play-in tournament is going to be the fact of come, April, May, hopefully they're fully healthy. Hopefully they've been gelling. I think it's more important that we recognize the fact that, again, this is a Jazz team that was put together after the Donovan Mitchell trade, like a month before the season started, So the more time that these guys have to mesh and work together and learn each other's strategies and the way that they play the game, the better they're going to get. So I'm not worried about the Jazz at all. Again, I also am not worried about the Jazz for the purpose that, all due respect to other NBA teams, like, let me pull up the standings super quick. I look at the NBA standings and I say, in the Western Conference, New Orleans is 1, Memphis is 2, Denver is 3, Phoenix is 4, Sacramento is 5, Portland is 6, Clippers are 7, Dallas is 8, Golden State's 9, and Utah's 10th at 15 and 14. I look at those teams and I say, all due respect, I'm putting money that the Jazz beat out Sacramento. I'm putting money. I think that they could beat out Portland. I think they could beat out New Orleans. I feel like they could beat out Memphis. Denver's going to be an interesting comparison for the fact that we play them in the division so consistently. So, Denver could pick up a lot of games or lose a lot of games on us due to our division play. But I just think at the end of the year, I think we're going to be better. And by the way, here you go, talking about accountability. At the end of the year, you can come talk to me and we can see how this ended up working out. I think that we'll be better than New Orleans. I think we'll beat out Sacramento. I think we'll beat out Portland. I think we'll beat out Dallas, And so I look at it and I say, I think we could be behind Memphis, Denver, Phoenix, maybe the Clippers, and Golden State. Those are 5 teams in front. That again, I think we could be behind. I think we could still be in front of them. Realistically, I think when we get healthy, when we get our easier schedule following the All-Star break, which will be in Salt Lake City, I think that'll revamp the franchise. The support's been there, the play's been there, players are getting better, players are getting more healthy. I like this Jazz team as a top 4 seed, which is super nice because then you're talking a first round. Should they be a top 4 seed, then you're talking about a Jazz team that gets games 1 and 2 at home in the first round, and then depending on how the playoffs go, they could have more home playoff games, obviously. And again, when I say top 4, that's if they were 4th, if they were a 3rd seed, if they were a 3rd seed, they'd play host in games 1 and 2 of their first round, and then I think they'd play, if the 2 seed beat the 7 seed, then we'd play on the road in games 1 and 2. But if the Jazz were to be the 3rd seed and the 2 seed were to lose, then the Jazz would host games 1 and 2 in their next playoff series. I think it's wildly fascinating to see what's going to happen with this Jazz team. But again, reviewing, I'm not too worried about them. Those are the 3 games that have happened. Again, that have happened since we last met. In regards to the Jazz's schedule that we will miss till we meet again, they host New Orleans tonight. Then they host New Orleans Thursday night, so they could get some very crucial wins against currently the top seed in the West. Then Saturday they play at Milwaukee, and then Monday they are at Cleveland. They play Donovan Mitchell for the first time this season. And then they do play at Detroit on Tuesday, the next time that we'll meet, but it'll be after, the game will be after I do my recording. So again, the 4 games that we'll miss, that will occur from the time that we meet today till next week will be versus New Orleans twice, Tuesday and Thursday, at Milwaukee Saturday, and then at Cleveland on Monday. So that's all we're going to review for the NBA. We go to college football. The only reason I'm touching on college football is because this week is BYU's bowl game. They will play SMU in the New Mexico Bowl on Saturday. Very simply, I will do a prediction because I have been doing predictions with college football. As much as I'd love to see BYU and on a strong note, they have lost some major players to the transfer portal immediately. Jaron Hall is more than likely not going to play with Jacob Conover entering the transfer portal. He was the backup quarterback. It falls to our 3rd string quarterback, the transfer from Boise State. I apologize, I don't even have his name. So, I think offensively there's going to be struggles there in regards to having a 3rd string quarterback who hasn't played at all this season for the Cougs. The players they lost in the transfer portal, I think, is a lot to come back from. It'll be nice to have Jay Hill, the former Weber State head coach who BYU hired just about a week ago. I'm super excited to see him join the BYU program as we transition to the Big 12 era of BYU football, moving on. This will be the final game of the BYU Independence era. Unfortunately, I think it will come with a loss to SMU. So I've got SMU winning this game. Just doing large part again because I think BYU is riddled with injuries. I think the transfer portal hurts them, and I think all in all this season, unfortunately, as much as I love them and as much as I'd love to glorify the flag behind me, has been rather disappointing. And just a super quick review of BYU football as we come to a conclusion. What I think is frustrating, and I talked about this before, maybe on the show, maybe it wasn't on the show, but I know I've been talking to a lot of people recently about the fact that if you would have told me looking at BYU's schedule that they had, I believe it's 5 losses, I'd say, okay, well, we played Baylor, so, we hosted Baylor, lost that game. At Oregon, that's a loss. Notre Dame probably lost, the way Notre Dame was coming in, lost to Notre Dame. We lost Arkansas, I get that, and then, we probably dropped a game, maybe at Boise State. That's a tough one, at Boise. No, 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 no. You lost to Liberty. At Liberty, you got obliterated. You lost to East Carolina. The Oregon loss, I get. The Arkansas loss, I get. Notre Dame loss, I get. That was a tough one, to swallow. But, if you would have told me that those were the losses, if we would have had 5 losses and those were the 5, again, that's a hard one. That's hard for me to take, especially in the way of we were favored to beat Liberty and we were favored to beat East Carolina. And I think in the game of football, you come to recognize and learn how important every game is. And that is, imagine had BYU only lost to Oregon, to Notre Dame, to Arkansas. You know what I mean? 3 losses, 2 against Power 5 conference opponents, the 3rd against really the darling of college football, because the playoff committee loves Notre Dame. Those are 3 understandable losses, but losses to East Carolina at home and getting obliterated by Liberty, those are tough pills to swallow. Those are tough losses to take. So that's all that I'll review on BYU. Their season's coming to an end. Again, I'll review the fact of whether they win or lose next episode. But that's really all for BYU football and really all that I'll review this week. Utah State doesn't play their bowl game till I believe it's the 27th. And then Utah obviously plays in the Rose Bowl. I believe it's January 2nd. So when those games roll around, we'll obviously review those. That's all we'll do for our college football. We hit the NFL. We're just cruising right along. And, and I did want to make mention that's in relation to the simplifying. Not that I don't love doing the show. I love doing the show. I hope you enjoy watching the show. But again, like I've said so many times, I know everyone's busy and it's hard to really dedicate an hour of a show, especially with it being on YouTube, not being on a podcast. I am trying to work on that and getting it to where you could just listen to the audio. But, for now, I just feel like maybe it's time to simplify the show a little bit, especially with college football ending and then the NFL coming in a month from now. We're going to start hitting playoff football, which means the games go, from 13 to 16 games a week to, it's going to turn into, I think it's 6 games a week, in the playoffs. And then, it'll obviously dwindle smaller and smaller and smaller. So the shows are going to get a lot shorter. I should give the warning right now, during the NBA season, I love the NBA. I should say I love Jazz basketball, and I say that because I don't necessarily love the NBA. I don't really pay attention to it outside of the Jazz just because I don't think the product is what it used to be. And so I really won't cover that much. I really won't cover that much of college basketball just because I think college basketball is so entertaining, but covering it outside of conference tournaments and the March Madness tournament, unfortunately, I just think it's almost useless in the way of there are teams who are terrible at the beginning of the year that find a way to win and really heat up come conference play and March Madness time. So, I just look at the dwindling topics that we can use. So the episodes are going to get a lot shorter. I would think they'll be anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes. I think that's the pace we're on right now because we're going to jump into the NFL. Regarding the NFL games that occurred this past week, in week 14, the Rams had an unbelievable comeback over the Las Vegas Raiders, 17-16. I was correct there. The Buffalo Bills defeated the New York Jets 20-12 in Buffalo. I predicted that game correctly. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Cleveland Browns 23-10. I predicted that game correctly. The Dallas Cowboys survived a scare from the Houston Texans with a late rushing touchdown by Ezekiel Elliott to put Dallas over Houston 27-23. I was correct there. The Detroit Lions upset the Minnesota Vikings 34-23. Everything really dictated and said that you should have picked Detroit. And of course I didn't, and I was wrong there. So again, stand accountable. Congrats to the Detroit Lions. They've won, I believe it's 5 out of the last 6, and their one loss was on Thanksgiving to Buffalo in a game that they were leading in the last minute of the game. So, I don't know. Are you supposed to watch out for Detroit? They're 6-7. Good luck to them as their season continues and as they try to make a push for the playoff. They're still in there. The Jacksonville Jaguars went to Tennessee and beat the Tennessee Titans 36-22. I was incorrect there. The Philadelphia Eagles walloped the New York Giants 48-22. I was correct there. I had the Eagles winning that game. The Baltimore Ravens eked out a victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers 16-14. I was correct there. The Kansas City Chiefs saw a 27-point lead turn into a 34-28 victory, a lot closer than many people thought it would be, including myself. I was correct there with the Chiefs winning. The San Francisco 49ers obliterated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in this past NFL draft, led the Niners in his first career start and was unbelievable in his victory, 35-7. Niners win. I was correct there. Carolina Panthers defeated the Seattle Seahawks 30-24. I was incorrect there. The LA Chargers beat the Miami Dolphins 23-17 on Sunday Night Football. I was incorrect there. I thought the Dolphins were going to pull out that victory. And the New England Patriots last night on Monday Night Football in Arizona defeated the Cardinals 27-13, and I was correct there. So, again, games I was correct on, games I was incorrect on. That's how it goes. I just wanted to stand accountable and get out front and say I was wrong about multiple games. Giving our predictions for this week, Thursday Night Football, the San Francisco 49ers are at the Seattle Seahawks, and I like the 49ers to win this game. I think they're playing well. Jimmy Garoppolo going down did not affect them like I maybe thought it would. And again, just congrats to Brock Purdy, and the Niners are rolling. They lead the division. This is a huge game. This really, to me, is the separating factor, because the fact that the Cardinals are practically out of the race and the Rams are practically out of the race. It is between Seattle and San Francisco. I think the 49ers win this game, and I think they really put a stranglehold on their division. I think they may even win their division with the win on Thursday. So I've got the Niners winning Thursday. The Colts are at the Vikings, and I like the Vikings winning this game, getting back on track. The Ravens are at the Browns, and I like the Ravens to find a way to win. I just think they're scrappy. I think they're physical, and I think that they'll win this game over the Browns. The Dolphins are at the Bills. I'm going to pick the Bills, but from a biased Chiefs fan point, I would love to see Miami win this game. But I think Buffalo's going to win this game for the reason of, knock on wood, if this is just my prediction, putting it out there, and I'm knocking on wood because I don't want this to not come to pass because I say it on my show. If Buffalo loses on Sunday, I think Kansas City wins the number 1 seed, and I think they do because they play at Houston, which I think the Chiefs can. Oh, sorry. That'll be this week's game. So you already know I'm breaking the rule. I think Kansas City's going to win at Houston. I think Kansas City will beat Seattle at home. I think Kansas City will beat Denver again at home. And then should they need to play the Raiders should they need to win at Las Vegas the final week to guarantee themselves the number 1 playoff spot, then the number 1 seed, then I think obviously Patrick Mahomes and the whole arsenal would play against the Raiders. But if Buffalo loses on Sunday, I think Kansas City's going to get the number 1 playoff spot. Which again really could be the difference from playing at home in the AFC Championship game, should you advance there, and playing on the road. Because knock on wood, I think Buffalo and Kansas City are locked and loaded for a rematch in an AFC Championship game. And I think it's going to be Kansas City 1, Buffalo 2, or Buffalo 1, Kansas City 2, and the higher seed gets the home playoff game. So Sunday is a crucial game. I think the Bills are going to win. I've got Buffalo winning. But again, from a biased Chiefs perspective, oh, how I'd love to see Miami beat Buffalo. But I think the Bills are going to win this game and really put themselves in a great position to win the #1 seed in the AFC. The Atlanta Falcons are at the New Orleans Saints. I've got the Saints winning this game. This season hasn't gone the way they were anticipating, but I like them winning this matchup in the South. Both teams somehow are still alive in that division, so who knows, maybe this is the beginning for the Saints. The Eagles are at the Bears. I've got the Eagles winning this game, continuing their tremendous season. The Lions are at the Jets. This is a tough one because I have not been able to pick Detroit right all season long. I thought the Jets played okay against Buffalo, enough to keep them in the game. Because of that, I've got the Jets winning this game over Detroit, but it wouldn't surprise me if Detroit ends up winning this game. So that's while both teams aren't necessarily amazing, Detroit's 6-7 and the Jets are 7-6. I think this is going to be a wildly entertaining game to watch, but I'm going to go with the Jets. The Steelers are at the Panthers. I like the Steelers to pick up the win here on the road at Carolina. The Cowboys are at the Jaguars, and I've got Dallas winning this one. This could be a really interesting game to watch and another close nail-biter for Dallas. We'll see what happens as they shape up and try to prep for not only winning to win the division, they need some help because Philadelphia's in the division. Not only strengthen their first wildcard spot, but keep themselves alive and possibly making a run for the division. But also, of course, I think it's super, super important just to play your best football as it gets later in the season. Again, the Chiefs are at the Texans. I've got the Chiefs winning this game. The Cardinals are at the Broncos. This is a tough one because I don't know if Russell Wilson will be back. Regardless, I still think that the Broncos are going to win this game and pick up their 4th win of the season in their on their home field. The Patriots are at the Raiders. I'm going to pick the Patriots to win this game, but this is a tough one because I think that the Raiders, again, this season has not gone the way that they've anticipated. They're 5-8. But I still think the talent's there. Obviously, Devontae Adams, I still think is the best wide receiver in football, and Derek Carr can get the ball to him. This is going to be a wildly entertaining game, but I think New England's going to pick up the road win. But this is a tough one. There's a lot of tough pick'em games this week. The Titans are at the Chargers. This is another tough one for me just because kind of the same thing with the Raiders. I don't know what to think about and take from the Los Angeles Chargers because I thought that they beat the Titans, they beat the Dolphins, but I wasn't all that sold. I've never been in love with the Dolphins defense. I thought it's always been about the Dolphins offense scoring, and the Chargers held them pretty well in check. I think I'm going to pick the Titans, and I pick them just because I feel like in the regular season, Derrick Henry is good enough to help the Titans win a lot of games. And right now they're at 7-6. They're teetering. That AFC South playoff race gets continuously interesting day in and day out, especially with the Jaguars beating the Titans. But I like the Titans to rebound, and I think that they'll beat the Chargers. Another pick'em game. I could be completely wrong. The Cincinnati Bengals are at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just feel like the slide continues, unfortunately, for the Buccaneers. I've got the Bengals winning this game. Sunday Night Football is the New York Giants at the Washington Commanders, and I've got the Giants winning this game in their primetime appearance. I do like the Giants, but that's going to be a pretty entertaining game. And then Monday Night Football, the Rams are at the Packers. I don't think anybody expected a 4-9 Rams team to play a 5-8 Green Bay Packers team. I like the Packers to win this game back. I like them on their home field. I like them coming off, I believe it was the bye week for them. And I kind of picked them just due in large part because I just think that the Rams are just a hair lower. I don't think that the Packers are great. I just don't think the Rams are better than the Packers. So I've got the Packers winning this game. Those are all of my picks. There are no bye weeks this week, so everyone is playing. There will be 16 games starting Thursday night, and then obviously ending with Monday Night Football. Those are all my picks for the NFL. We're just hitting the half-hour mark. So again, this is probably what you'll be expecting for the remainder of my episodes. Unfortunately, nobody asked me anything on the Question and Connor segment, so I will conclude with... Oh, sorry. Knocked over my microphone. I will conclude with Connor's question, our concluding segment. And my question to you, very simply, and you'll have this answer come Sunday, who do you think between Argentina, who has clinched their spot? Oh, you know what? Actually, sorry. Let me confirm that a miracle didn't happen, and that the World Cup final, part 1, is set. Argentina defeated Croatia 3-0. So Argentina is set. My question is, who do you think will win the World Cup come Sunday? Argentina, France, or the greatest Cinderella story of all time, Morocco? Argentina, France, Morocco. Let me know who you think will win the World Cup on Sunday. We'll know the answer when we meet next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unbiased. I'm your host, as always, Mr. Unbiased, Connor Bennion. Thank you for joining. Again, check out my other podcast, The Babbling Bennion. I'll leave the link in the description below. And thank you again for joining. Hopefully you're having a wonderful, wonderful December as the Christmas season nears. Hopefully everyone gets the chance to spend time with family, with friends, have that wonderful spirit. Thank you again for joining. Thank you for being so supportive. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll see you next week.